Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be taking out this tree and this tree, and I don't know if it's going to show up in the video or not, but this one was hit by lightning, and I guess this one as well, because they died at the same time. And this one has a pretty clear scar on it from the lightning strike. But we're going to wedge this tree and drop it over in this area, and then this one we're going to drop towards that one. But it's got a lean on it, and I have a friend of mine who was lives a few hours away, was asking me about cutting a wedge. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut the wedge, and then show you how I was taught to cut the wedge, because I know there's some different thoughts on it, and kind of the way I was taught, to be honest, makes sense to me. And you can cut a wedge in a tree like this, you can cut a wedge in a tree like this, or you can cut it like this. And the way that I was taught was to cut it like this, because it allows the hinge to, when the tree's coming over, for that hinge to close up but hold right to the very end until the tree is practically on the ground, which to me makes perfect sense. And I was taught that by my uncle, who had been a logger or a lumberjack at some point in his life. And I kind of feel like, well, if you've done something for a living, you're probably going to be interested in becoming an expert at it, because obviously that's how you're earning your living. But at any rate, I'm going to get to it, and then I'll take you over and show you what the wedge and stuff looks like after I've cut it. hope I caught all that. But you can see she's pretty dead. You know, the top of it is well, just completely shattered out of it. And there you can kind of see a bit of the lightning scar that ran down it. It actually runs the entire length of the tree. But yeah, I did a terrible job cutting that wedge, and I really dropped the tip of my saw when I cut it. But I think it'll actually do a good job of demonstrating the value, because this is the hinge here. So at the end, you know, I was popping in those wedges to get the tree to go. But this is all that was holding the tree. And you can see I actually overcut my hinge on that side. But I wanted it to go this way, and the tree obviously had a strong lean going that way. But because this bit of the hinge was holding it, it refused to let it fall that way. So it just took a matter of, you know, popping the wedges in to give it that little push that it needed to get going that way. Well, that should be it for this tree. Now I've just got to start cleaning it up. The nice thing about the fact that it's dead is that all the limbs shattered out of it, and you know, doing the cut up should be pretty easy. You know, because obviously there's not a ton of weight setting on the limbs the way that normally is, and you know, so you don't have to worry about binding your saw so much or bending your bar. But we will get to cutting this thing up, and then we'll have to work on dropping this tree, which is a lot heavier. I'm gonna have to shoot a line in it, well, because there's a chain link fence that runs along here, and I definitely don't want to be getting into that chain link fence. Plus I want to try to wedge it, get the rope and pull it so I'm not standing underneath it, because you can see there's a lot of widowmakers in that tree. But the fact that it's standing dead, I don't really want to climb it and clean those out of there either. Been a couple hours since I cut the last tree, but I went ahead and got it all cross cut anyway, and I'm going to get ready to go ahead and drop this tree. And yeah, it's getting late, so yeah, I'm running out of time, but I had to throw the camera back on the charger. show you what we got. We got the wedge cut, but there's just a ton of weight hanging out the back of this tree, and it had a slight lean that way, so we're trying to push it across. And I've got some wedges in there, but I'm gonna have to cut the hinge thinner to get it to give up the ghost. It's close, it's right there, but I'd hope to finish it off using the wedges and, you know, leave a pretty substantial hinge in place. And it's still substantial, just not going to be as substantial. So go ahead and crop her up a little bit with the chainsaw. All right, finally. Man, that thing was tough. There was so much weight leaning out over that fence. It was really fighting me, but finally got it to go. As you can see, there's the hinge. And there's the hinge going across, and when I came back in, you know, I cut it probably half as much again, but I've broken a couple of these plastic wedges, so I had to use that steel splitting wedge in order to get it to go ahead and kick over. And, you know, to me, it's always been, you know, a little bit impressive, you know, how little wood you know, has to exist in that hinge in order to hold that tree, you know. And ideally, you know, this would be uniform all the way across, and you know, you want it to, you know, like I said, act as a hinge and control that fall all the way down. And you can tell, I mean, there's where we were aiming, and yeah, we pretty well hit the mark. Now all there is to do is process this one, which is going to be limbing it and cross-cutting it. I don't think I'll get as lucky as I did with the last one where it was sitting on a big knot, but I'll bring the tractor up, get it cut in some bigger chunks, and use the forks on the tractor to take the load off it just to make it easier to process. But that's it. That's how you wedge and fall a tree. You know, plastic felling wedges, they're really cheap. I think you can get them for just a couple of dollars, and they're money well spent. I mean, yeah, you know, it just, you know, makes the tree do what you want the tree to do. Now, you'll notice when this tree started falling down, you know, I got away from it because at the base of the tree is the, you know, danger area, because you can have the tree do what they call barber chairing, where, you know, it starts to do this and then it'll fall back on itself. It'll like that. And if you're standing at that base area, you know, it's coming back at you. So anytime the tree starts to come down, no matter how controlled it is, just get away from it. That, and, you know, on this tree you can see all these widow makers hanging on there. Once that tree starts to move, you know, those things can, you know, go ahead and fall out, break out, and you know, they land typically right back there at the stump. So again, you know, as soon as you've got it, just get away from it and you know, let it come on down. All right, guys, that's it for this project. I don't think I'm going to film any of the rest of it because it's just kind of boring cross-cutting timbers up. But thanks for tuning in and have a great day.